Good luck.
Merhaba arkadaşlar, hepiniz IEFT Talks webinarlarına hoş geldiniz. Bugün Hollanda'nın Köklü Üniversitesi, Leiden Üniversitesi'de yüksek lisans programlarını Carolyn ve Taner'den dinliyor olacağız. Lütfen sorularınızı sağ alt köşede Questions bölümünden yönlendirmeyi unutmayın. Yes, Carolyn, the stage is yours now.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me today. As introduced, my name is Carolyn Barr, and I work for Leiden University here in the Netherlands. I'm currently in the city of Leiden, and I work with all the incoming international students from all around the world. And I'm joined today by my friend and former colleague and student, Taner. Taner, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Köklü, and as Caroline mentioned, I used to study at Leiden University. I graduated from Advanced Master's in Law and Digital Technologies program in 2020. So I'm happy to hear your questions and answer them afterwards.
So we're going to get a unique student experience kind of perspective throughout the presentation, and I'm going to intersperse that with practical information or practical matters that you might need to know about. And we'll definitely be able to take your questions at the end. So keep thinking of all of those things that you wanted to know and that you hope to get out of this presentation today. And also, I'll mention at the end, we also have our Master Online Open Day coming up on the 10th and 11th of March, so next week. So we have an online event where you can learn far more about the individual programs that we have at the university as well. So here we go. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the university in a nutshell, because we are a large university. We're around 33,000 students. We're spread across 2 locations in Leiden and The Hague, and we'll talk about those a little bit later and how those relate to the programs and your student life. There are thousands of international students at the university from many nationalities, including Turkish students. We have many, many students from Turkey. So I think you feel at home, certainly in the Netherlands. And we have 7 faculties with 80 programs at the master level. And there's almost 200 specializations, or just over 200 specializations. Every year it varies slightly. So of course, we're not going into every particular type of program here today, but I want to talk about the areas of expertise that the university has and a number of other aspects. And a lot of students choose Leiden for a specific reason, and also the Netherlands. And I think a lot of students will look at sort of the history and reputation of the university, because we are a top 100 world-class research institution. And of course, the programs that we have on offer are unique, and the expertise areas, are something that we're very well known for around the world. I'm going to talk about the unique student experience with Taner, and he's going to give insight into the academic culture, the academic student life, a little bit about the city of The Hague, certainly, and his Dutch experience. I'll also talk a little bit about student support and the cost of attendance and housing, for example. But I maybe want to start off a little bit here, just for a quick question that may not be a quick answer, Taner, is, why did you choose Leiden in the end?
Yeah, I chose Leiden because for that specific program that I attended, and because while I was checking the curriculums of the specific master's program on digital technologies, it was an advanced master program, and I was already acquainted with the Dutch education system, because I used to be a student as well already before I joined the Leiden University in the Netherlands. So I decided that was going to be the best choice for me, because the curriculum was super well structured, and it was quite niche, but also quite variety also included in that position. So I said that, okay, that would be the best choice for me.
Yeah, and I think I hear that an awful lot from students. I mean, of course, all the information in terms of the university, in terms of reputation and the cities that we're in, are really a part of that decision-making process as well. But first and foremost, it's really about, what we have on offer. And then it really comes down to some of these things, like I said, that history and reputation. I mean, this year we're 447 years old. Almost 4.5 centuries of history and tradition. And of course, with that goes a lot of prize winners, Nobel laureates, notable professors, notable researchers, notable alumni, everyone from our current King Willem Alexander, our current Prime Minister, Mark Rutte, even, world famous DJs like Armin van Buuren. He was a student at Leiden Law School, believe it or not. But for those things, that's sort of a secondary focus, I think, for a lot of students. I think it is that first focus on the unique programs and the impactful research that we do. And so I wanted to give an overview of sort of our areas of expertise, because we're really looking at scientific and societal issues, and that really falls into our 5 groupings, or the research that we do in general across the university. And there is one overarching theme, which is artificial intelligence, but you'll see the 5 here on the screen: the fundamentals of science, life sciences, health and well-being, law, politics and administration, and languages, cultures, and societies. And we have students that are coming from around the world that are interested in these particular areas of research and study. So you'll find many different types of programs in these areas of expertise. Like I said, we have 80 approximately, and then almost 200 specializations. So certainly in one of those, you will find something that relates to your academic studies that you've done at a bachelor level, and that might be something that a logical follow-up for your master's. You know, it could be anything from archaeology and those area studies, that regional language, history, culture type studies. It could be something like law, or things like linguistics, or our fundamental sciences like biology, chemistry, physics, for example. It could be behavioral and social sciences, whether that's culture, anthropology, or psychology, for example, or even politics and policy. And of course, we focus a lot on governance and global affairs. But that's not to leave out things like computer science and artificial intelligence, for example. So there's really quite a lot on offer. And so because we can't go into detail, I hope that after this presentation, or even before this presentation, you took a look at what might be a great program for you to see whether Leiden would offer that for you. And if not, please be sure to check our website to do some searching for the different programs and specializations that might suit you best overall. Now, the reason I've invited Tanner here today is because I think it's really important for students to get a sense of what it's like to go through a program. Of course, you know your interests, you know the type of master that you probably would look forward to, the one that would match your bachelor program, for example. But understanding what it's really like to live and study in the Netherlands is a really important part of making your decision. So because Leiden University offers a unique student experience, we wanted to focus a little bit on 4 things. So the academic culture and student life, the student life itself in terms of social and extracurricular activities, the Dutch experience itself of living here in the Netherlands, and the student support that we have on offer. And, you know, for some of these things, you know, I often have master students say, oh, you know, the social and extracurricular activities, they don't interest me that much. It's more about the program. And I would agree with you in many cases. However, that student life, that social aspect is where you can start to also build your network for going on later in life. So I do want to mention it because it is very important for you to also keep a physical and mental well-being and balance for yourself. And that's something that we're really proud of at the university, to make sure that you have those opportunities. So this is where I'm going to start posing some questions to my special guest here, so he can share his experiences at the university. And I wanted to address the academic culture at the university overall. And this tends to be characterized by a student-centered approach, that you're going to have, you know, interaction, either in teaching methods or in your research, tends to be pretty non-hierarchical with your professors. And then you've got support. So, you know, how did you experience academic culture at the university in your program, Tanner?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Caroline. So for me, the biggest difference between the education that I received in Turkey and in the class of Leiden University is that how interactive that was. And I was always challenged to think creatively and like come up with my own argumentation, as opposed to I was usually asked, like, you know, to try to come up with like what is out there and what has been posed by other scholars or like, you know, professors or like, you know, literature, academic literature. But instead I was forced to think critically on those materials and come up with my own argumentation. And yeah, in the classrooms I was interacting with the professors or the lecturers about my own ideas and argumentation, how I reached those conclusions. So that was one of the most interesting aspects that I got from my Dutch education experience, so to say. And yeah, with the academic support, I totally agree. The professors or lecturers, they were always approachable, like just by dropping a mail or just talking to them right after the lectures. Sometimes we even go out for like dinner, or like you just see them, the places that you just go with your friends and have fun. So, and they were always super approachable and friendly with us.
Now, I know every program also has an academic coordinator or a study coordinator. They sometimes have different titles, but did that person, did you use that support, the academic support in the program, you know, outside of your professors?
Yes, of course. And especially with the practical matters, they were really helpful. And the thing is, like, you're not the first international student there that encountering like problems or some issues or the things that like you just pose questions, and they are super experienced in that, and they were always helpful and find a solution for us. So it was really helpful for us to have those people also on board.
Yeah, I think it's super important when you're coming to a new country to have that support. And I know that those people can often be your first port of call. If, you know, they may not be able to help you with every single thing, but they can connect you to the different parts of the university that can help you. And I'll talk about those a little bit later on. So I think it's important that from, I think, day one, your academic support is there in addition to your professors and other students in your course as well. Because I think that, building your network also is very helpful there as well. Now, in terms of sort of your academic student life, we talked a little bit about your experience in the classroom. That it was very interactive. You had to be an active part of your studies, for example. And I know that you did, a one-year advanced master program, which is highly intensive. But maybe you could tell us a little bit about, what was your classroom like, and maybe move on to something like, a typical week, and then we'll talk a little bit about your current career path.
Yeah, sure. So a typical week was like, first of all, because of the advanced master's classroom, we were 30 or 35 students overall. And a typical week was like, we had the classrooms that we had to read the mandatory material on, let's say, Monday, and then we were discussing those materials with the professors, and then with some case studies and stuff. And then we were having another lecture, and sometimes it's mostly practical wise, like we had some guest lectures talking about the specific topic and stuff. And then usually, because of the advanced master's programs, it was a bit more compact, and we had like 5 terms consist of 5 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. So it was more like practical sense. It was more of a compact and dense, but it was still doable, and it was super fun to follow, because like then you see a lot of things and you experience a lot of other like relevant topics. And regarding my career path, now I am a PhD researcher at Tilburg University. And before I started my PhD here, I used to work as an intern at one of the UN offices in The Hague. So that was where I am. That was where I used to be.
And how did that, studying at Leiden University, did that, affect your career path or your connection to the UN at all?
Yeah, sure. It actually affected both of my trajectories, because like for the UN, it was really helpful for me to be where the UN is actually located, because I used to live in The Hague, and Leiden University has its campus also in The Hague, although I didn't study at that campus. But it was really helpful for me to reach out to those communities, international organizations, or NGOs or think tanks that are usually located in The Hague, where the government is also located in the Netherlands. So it was really helpful for me to already study in The Hague, in Leiden, and found those opportunities in The Hague. And now I am a PhD researcher at Tilburg University, but my research focuses on artificial intelligence-driven genetic research. So the overarching theme has also helped me to develop my career or curriculum, like my profile, whatever you call it. It also helped me eventually to find my way here as well.
Now, when you were in your program at Leiden, you had, of course, the advanced master program, which had the 5 blocks, like you indicated. How did research factor into that? Your own personal research?
Yeah, first of all, throughout all the lectures that we had, or the not the lectures, but the program overall was always designed on the fact that we had to do like individual and group assignments that based on like academic research, and we had to come up with our own argumentation and like find some like relevant ideas, and then discuss it with other group members, or individually come up with own argumentation over that. And of course, we had to write a thesis, and the thesis process, I think it was for like 6 months, at least 6 to 8 months. So it was really helpful, because then we were supervised by, of course, our supervisor, and then we had a little course on how to write a thesis, how to find the topic, and etc. So it also helped me even to develop my own project afterwards and find a position in the Netherlands as a PhD researcher. So it was really helpful.
Yeah, I think you touched on something there that I know a lot of students are nervous about when they come into the Netherlands, because they know they're going to have to do a research thesis, and they're nervous about maybe choosing a topic. They're nervous about actually doing it. And you mentioned, so there was a course to help you, and you had a supervisor. Could you maybe elaborate just a little bit on that?
Yeah, of course, because we started writing our thesis around December, so way before the course is completed, of course, but we hadn't seen a lot of the courses already, like, for instance, telecommunication law, but some people were interested in those topics but they were not sure if they wanted to follow a thesis or write a thesis on that topic. So what we had, for instance, what was really interesting for me is that we had like a crash course of telecommunications law on that like thesis week. Besides that, we had a session on how to find a thesis topic, or like how to narrow down your thesis or research question. And then we also had some previous successful and unsuccessful thesis examples and compared them with, of course, the supervisors to see, like, what is expected, what are the good examples to follow, and what are the do's and don'ts and stuff. So it was really helpful for us.
And I know that you've already mentioned sort of your current academic career path and your work with the UN, but when you were in your program at Leiden, how did you decide on what your next steps were going to be when you graduated?
Yeah, first of all, I was always interacting with the alumni, because we had also a session where like people from different domains from our they of course graduated from the same program with me. We had a session, I think around, again, in December or like January-ish. So they came and they talked about their experience and like how the program, or afterwards, like their career choices actually helped them to achieve what they have achieved. So it really helped me to understand what I wanted to do. And also, like, there were some opportunities that were posted in the group of the master's program, and like staff members were providing us some insights, like what can we do about it, or like what is this program is about, the position is about, and what might be the advantages, or actually to whom it actually addressed to. So it was really helpful for us to also manage our expectations and see what would work for us the best.
So it sounds like there was quite a bit of support, certainly through the alumni network, or even what we call the mentor network here at Leiden, and also just within your program, there was quite a lot of intensive support there. That's great to hear. That helped sort of continue on your route overall, because I know for a lot of students, it can be sometimes confusing. Sometimes it's exactly what you want to do after your master program, and then you get your foot in the door. And I think sort of you mentioned how, sort of, although you didn't study in The Hague at our campus there, you were at the campus in Leiden, being close to The Hague and sort of working for the UN, those things all sort of contributed a bit to your planning and your successes overall. I want to talk a little bit about student life, and certainly, Tanner, you can definitely add some pieces here, because I find that student life at the university comes in a lot of variations, and that's with the university itself, and then within the community that students are living in, whether that's Leiden or The Hague. And students really pick and choose from both sides of that. And I know certainly in your program, it was very intense, and that you didn't have too much time outside of your studies to take part in these things. But I wanted to mention to students, because we've talked a lot about support as we've gone through the student experience, and that kind of support starts, today, in the sense that if you're interested in the university, of course, we're here together talking to you, but myself in my office, in addition to all of the other program coordinators, are available to help you as you're looking at programs through the admissions process, for example. But once maybe you become a student at Leiden University, and that would be lovely to hear, we have a number of different things you can take part in. And one of them is what's called the warm welcome service, so that you can actually arrive on what we call arrival days, and you can be met at the airport and, pointed in the right direction and sent off to Leiden or The Hague, where people will be there waiting for you as well to welcome you and get you sorted out. And again, pointing in the right direction on those days. We have orientation weeks, one in Leiden called Orientation Week Leiden, or the OWL, or the Hague orientation program, the HOP week, depending on where you're going to be studying. And these are primarily social weeks where you'll meet other students, but you'll also get to know the cities that you're living in. You'll find out all the different resources that are available, meet your faculty, find out the different extracurricular activities that might be available to you and interesting to you. And a lot of students are sort of on the fence about whether they'll attend one of these weeks, but I highly recommend doing it, because it definitely makes you feel, I think, more settled, more at home before you start your program. And any way that you're able to do that makes you get off on the right foot, make sure that your experience is a good one before you actually start your program. Now, Tanner, I don't remember, did you ever attend one of the orientation weeks?
Yeah, actually, I can even show you the proof of it. I have even the water bottle always with me. It's from the OWL. So what I would like to underline here is that, like, if you have the chance, definitely attend orientation week, the OWL, because it is the opportunity for you to get to know the city and like the experience. And of course, before the hard work starts, it's the one 1 week of a period that you will have fun and you will like meet with other people that, and actually like I have a lot of friends who are not actually from my the same program, sometimes even like different faculties, that we're still in touch, and I met them during the orientation week period. So it's really fun. I would definitely advise you to attend it if you have the chance. I was already in the Netherlands, so I didn't had the chance to benefit from the warm welcome service, but I heard a lot of good stories about it as well. But like, of course, that there are a lot of extracurricular activities that you can do, apart from the ones that Caroline also mentioned. But for instance, I was a bit busy because it was an advanced master's student and I was doing an internship and writing the thesis, etc. But I still had the chance to find time to, I don't know, write blogs for Leiden University, or like attend the, maybe you will also mention it afterwards, like International Leiden Leadership Program. That is also an opportunity for you to get to know about some of the experience in Leiden University. So those programs really helped me to also find my way in Leiden in social aspect, not always on the academic or professional aspects.
Yeah, I've always been impressed with our students because they have managed to keep a balance between the professional and the personal. And I think that's very typical of Dutch culture as well. Yeah. So students, of course, can take all the services and all of the different types of extracurricular activities that are available through our Plexus and Beehive student centers in Leiden and The Hague, respectively. So we have facilities for students. There's a university sports center in Leiden where students can play over 80 sports and keep fit. There's also a gym in The Hague, of course. Lots of student and study organizations and the Erasmus Student Network, which we do have a lot of master's students taking part in these kinds of events. But again, it will depend on your interest and at the time that you have to spend on these social aspects, for sure. And actually, maybe, Tanner, you can tell us a little bit about the leadership program that you took part in, because you've got the firsthand experience of it.
Yeah, of course. So it was organized by Honors Academy, if it hasn't changed, of course. So it is, they select 30 to 35 students from 3 universities, and including Leiden University, of course. And after the selection process, you follow, I think, around a year or maybe like 8 months or something, like a special course designed to actually not provide you with leadership skills, but actually find your tune on how to best show your leadership skills in a professional or like a social environment. And I really enjoyed that because it was like really interactive with all the other classmates that I had. And we were always, first of all, we were tutored by a lecturer all the time, and then afterwards we were following some exercises. It really helped me to find my tune, also both in professional and personal settings, on how do I approach problems, how can I solve the problems, or like what is the best tune to help somebody in that is in need or in trouble. So it really helped me to also develop not only my professional skills but also personal skills. So I really recommend you to also apply for that program.
Yeah, so there's definitely ways to get an extra challenge out about this. Before I move on to some of the practical matters, because I see we have lots of questions about practical matters, there is one student that was asking about, Tanner, can you tell us a little bit more about the social life? So, on the times where you were just doing purely social things, what kinds of stuff would you do either in Leiden or The Hague or in the Netherlands or anything like that? Maybe you could give a bit more insight.
Yeah, of course. Like the first things, first, Leiden is in the region that is called Randstad. So you should not only consider Leiden in that regard, but the bigger region where all the big cities like The Hague or Rotterdam and Amsterdam is included. So it gives you the advantage to actually attend anything that you would like in that region, because you can go to those cities or those events and do whatever you want to do. There's no problem with that, like regarding transportation or whatsoever. But Leiden itself is a very student-friendly city. So especially during the springtime or the summertime, or like when the weather is nice in the Netherlands, when you walk out from your faculty, you see everybody on the parks or like in the bars that they haven't like enjoying their time with their friends and their colleagues, and you would definitely find your tune there. And in The Hague, It's a bigger city than Leiden, so it also, of course, like provides a bit of more opportunities for you. But usually, what I like to do in The Hague is that they have the beach. So summertime, that was my favorite activity. But apart from that, there are a lot of like museums. Also in the Leiden, there are a lot of museums that you can go to, or like find some places like unique bars and restaurants that you can enjoy your time with your friends. So those are the social activities that I used to do while I was studying in Leiden University. So.
Excellent. That gives a little bit of an overview of the kinds of things that students and actually other people in Leiden and The Hague will do, because I think that students do find that it's really a mix of students and the local population. In both cities, it's a highly international local population as well. I want to touch a little bit on the Dutch experience, and then I'll return a little bit to the cities as well. Because you and I both have come to the Netherlands from other places and had this experience. And typically in the Netherlands, there tends to be no language barrier in the sense that everyone does speak English generally to a high level. However, and then maybe just a moment, you could share your experience here. But I find that if students are looking to live here long term, that yes, you really should learn the language, but you won't need it in order to study, so to speak. So that is a little bit of a peace of mind that it's not something you have to learn before you come here, and then you don't need it for your studies, so to speak. We're also at the doorstep of Europe, so very easy to access other parts of Europe and experience more than just the Netherlands, because it is a small country, about 200 by 300 kilometers in each direction. So you can absolutely, experience a lot of the Netherlands during your studies. But there's still the opportunity to have sort of a cultural immersion experience and really get involved in your local communities, whether that's, with internships or volunteerships, or even if it's just, taking part in local festivals or learning about Dutch history or eating local Dutch foods, for example, or doing some of the things that tourists would typically do here in the Netherlands, like visiting the tulip fields or some of the more medieval cities and so forth. So there's many different ways to have that typical Dutch experience that is different than other countries around the world. Maybe, Tanner, you can tell us a little bit about your Dutch experience.
Yeah, exactly. I don't have actually a lot of things to add what you already said. What I can add, like, as a student who didn't know Dutch back then, like at all, I had no issues whatsoever, like in my personal life or in the academic life as well. So with English, you can easily survive. But of course, I would recommend you to start learning Dutch, at least in a personal, like, know how to, like, say hi, hello, like I'm this, I'm coming from that, because it will also help you to engage with the community, as Caroline mentioned. And so what I would suggest for you to, for instance, like benefit from the Dutch experience in a way that, for instance, you can have a subscription, which I did, for the weekend free subscription from the and I don't know how to define NS here, like the main transportation company that is responsible from the trains. So, for instance, in the Netherlands, it's quite small, but it's quite unique everywhere. So you can experience the Dutch cities the fullest. For instance, nowadays, now in Tilburg in the south, it is the carnival is celebrated. So you could come here and enjoy your time here, while like joining the parties or like the celebrations on the street, and then go back to Leiden, to your home in the Sunday evening, and then just attend your lectures in the Monday morning. It's quite easy and quite affordable, quite cheap, and like, yeah, the whole system is designed for you to work and enjoy afterwards. So you can benefit from this experience.
Yeah, and I usually bring this up because, because English is widely spoken here to a very high level, a lot of students assume it's going to be the same as if they're maybe going to the US or the UK or Canada or Australia. And the culture is very different. So there's lots to experience here and lots to really immerse yourself in. So keeping in mind that that's a very, again, a unique thing about each particular country you might be looking at, to look at what those experiences might be outside the classroom. Now, we've talked a little bit already about Leiden in the sense that it is that small student-oriented or student-friendly town that Tanner was talking about. It is very much a medieval city. We've got the canals and the windmills and the cobblestones and the old university buildings from 1575. I mean, you can really feel the history of the university and the city itself, because the city kind of grew up around the university, over that 4.5 centuries. And the majority of students are here in Leiden, but that's not to sort of take away from the student life in The Hague at all. But you certainly get a buzz here in the city when the students are in session, because there's just so many more in the population. So 1 in 10 is a student here. And of course, we're about 20 minutes from the airport. And I know that Tanya, you talked a little bit about your student life and living in Leiden. Is there anything that you think you left out that you would want to add here, or did we cover most of Leiden already?
I think we already covered more or less like everything. What I could add, like, with the medieval, it's very picturesque. So whenever I like visit Leiden again, or The Hague even, so I'm like always with my phone in my hand, because you always find a good spot, like, take a good picture of that, like, building or the secret garden, or something. It's very picturesque.
Yeah, I would agree with you, but I'm biased because I do live here, but I still take pictures all around the city when I'm going here, and I've been here about 15 years. So it is certainly picturesque, very traditionally Dutch in that look and feel, for sure. I mean, Rembrandt was born here and studied and was a painter in Leiden. So, I mean, you've got that sense of history overall. And then, I mean, our other location in The Hague, which, again, we have thousands of students there. So you will never feel like you're in a giant university. You'll definitely feel like you're in a much smaller institution, because you'll be usually at your faculty building, which is kind of nice about the university. It feels much more sort of personal in that way. But there are thousands of students in The Hague, and it is a very different sort of look and feel to Leiden. It's very much a young professional city, I would say, because it is the International City of Peace and Justice and Security. So the programs that we offer there have something to do with those themes. It makes sense to be immersed in that sort of multicultural hub that is The Hague. It's also over 500,000 people, which for the Netherlands is a large city. For the rest of the world, it is not. So it's kind of nice that it's a big city here. Also very close to the beach, like Tanner said. You've got a tram out to Scheveningen, which is where the beach promenade is. So if you like to surf or you like to be in nature, a lot of students will be doing that. And all of our faculties are represented here. So you will be at one campus or the other. Most students will live in one city and study there, but some students live in one city and commute to the other. It's only about 10 minutes by train, so very, very easy to experience all of The Hague. I think, Tanner, you mentioned sort of how The Hague and Leiden both benefited your studies. So I think that those are things that students can think about as well when they're looking at making their choices. How do the locations and how do the sort of that symbiotic relationship that the university has with the cities that they're in, how will that benefit you? So I think that you really had a nice spin on that a little bit earlier. Is there anything else you'd like to add about The Hague?
Yeah, I mean, if you let me talk about The Hague, I can talk about like hours and hours. Like, that's my favorite city in the whole world, because of course I'm biased because of all this experience. But the thing I can add here, especially the ones that would like to work or like build their careers in international law, international relationships, like The Hague is really the place to be. Because, for instance, I was living just right across the Peace Palace, and every day I was like mesmerized, like, oh, like really, I'm living here. Like the moment that I step out, I see the Peace Palace in front of me. It's a source of a motivation as well. And also, I had this like funny experience that where first I applied for this internship position at United Nations office. And then they, after a couple of weeks, they sent me an invitation by email, and they were asking for an interview. And of course, back then the pandemic was not the thing, so we were going in-person interviews. And I just realized the address was like 5 apartments away from me. And I just realized at that point, like a building that I was passing by every day was just actually a UN office, which I didn't even realize. So The Hague actually gives you all those advantages that you can actually build your network, and then afterwards, like, build your career in international domain, not necessarily in the Netherlands, but everywhere else, because you have a lot of organizations and NGOs and think tanks that you can work or collaborate with, or like go to their events and get inspired, whatever. So it's a really nice opportunity.
Yeah, the world really does come to The Hague. I mean, that's the one thing that I think our students will find, especially in these topics of study, that it's really, you are immersed in the environment that you will continue on either academically or professionally. And it offers an awful lot of opportunities for students going forward. Now, I'm going to switch gears a little bit and go into some of our nuts and bolts, or the sort of practical matters, and hopefully I'll be addressing some of the questions that some of you have already had in our question area. But please continue to ask your questions there, because we will have a question and answer session in just a bit. But in terms of support, we've already talked about lots of things. And one of those peripherally was the International Study Line, because that's my office. I have student assistants and myself that are here to assist you, answer questions, connect you with people across the university, really facilitate you getting the information that you need to have. So that's our frontline support. The admissions office, of course, I would recommend coming to our Master Open Day and attending the application and admission session that they'll be on offer during that particular time frame. They will take care of visa and residence permits. for every student who applies, if that's required. That's something that has to go through the universities. There are student advisors or coordinators that are assigned to you because that's someone that will be taking care of you in your program. So Tanner referenced those a little bit earlier in terms of the academic support that you would get. But we have lots of other support opportunities. And some of those are, if you have a learning or functional challenge, we have support from the Fenestra Disability Office. They are there to assist you with all those aspects that you might need. We have career services in every faculty and across the university. So they will be doing some of those things to help prepare you, whether that's building your CV and writing CVs, learning interview techniques and practicing for interviews, building up your LinkedIn profiles and getting professional photos taken, learning how to attack the job search. And this will be in addition to what's going on in your programs, because of course your study coordinators and professors will often help prepare you, like Tanner said as well, for this kind of environment. So lots of career service focus. And of course, connection to the mentor network, which is our alumni group that people around the world that have already studied their programs have joined the mentor network, where you can ask them questions about maybe their careers or maybe the location where they're working, to really connect with others out there and network. So there's quite a lot of layers to the career services at the university. And we do have a housing officer. And again, I would recommend attending our presentations during the open days to talk a little bit about that. Housing is your responsibility in the Netherlands. You do have to search on your own to find that in general. So students should really be looking at applying to their programs early and planning to look for housing also early in the Netherlands as well. It can be a big challenge. There's a shortage of housing in the country. So don't leave your applications and your housing search until the last minute if you're looking at the Netherlands. Be ahead of the game, be proactive, and be persistent in order to make those arrangements. And we have the Healthy University, which is in the university to help you have a balance, like I said, of that physical and mental well-being. So ways to connect with others, ways to improve your learning environment at home or at the university, making sure that you take advantage of all the physical well-being opportunities at the University Sports Center or otherwise. But we have a big focus on this at the university so that you have a very good experience overall. So I think that those things are important to mention because we have had thousands of international students for decades. So we know the kinds of services that you'll need. But I do want to mention here that in the Netherlands, it is assumed that you'll be very proactive and that you'll be very independent and that you'll be able to reach out for these assistance levels or these supports if you need them. So it's mainly that if you need assistance, you can, of course, go to your study advisor to help them get you pointed in the right direction, or reach out to the offices directly if you need any assistance. So it's important to remark that cultural difference that students might find. I also wanted to mention tuition fees and financial planning, because this is, of course, very important when you're planning to study abroad. And the tuition fees do range quite drastically depending on your nationality, but also the program. So you will have to double check the tuition fee for your own situation and for the program that you're looking at. But for European Union or European Economic Area citizens, so if you have a passport of an EU or an EEA country, you can use that to apply to the university and generally have a lower tuition fee overall. It starts at just over 2,000 euros a year for most programs, though there are some programs that don't receive a subsidy from the EU government and the Dutch government. So the tuition fees can still go up to just around 19,000 euros a year, even for European Union students. But for most programs, it's just around 2,200 euros. If you do not have a European Union or European Economic Area passport, then you'll be looking at between about 18,800 euro and just over 27,000 euro per year, again, depending on the program. So each faculty is a little different in terms of their fees. So it's important to double check your fee for your particular situation. And living expenses, of course, can vary quite drastically depending on your lifestyle and what you like to do. But we do recommend somewhere between 800 and 1,200 euros per month, which would cover your food, your rent, a bike, your insurance, your social life, a little bit of travel, this kind of thing. And the difference there is generally the type of accommodation that you're going to be seeking. You know, if you're looking to share with others, like share a kitchen or bathroom, for example, you might be towards that lower end. But if you want your own studio apartment, you'll certainly be on the upper end of that. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're planning ahead financially. And there are some ways to help mitigate that cost. If you're an EU or EEA citizen, there is a tuition fee loan scheme that you can borrow the tuition fee from the Dutch government for low interest rates and long-term payback options. Everyone can work part-time, though if you're a non-EU citizen, you do have a restriction of 16, so 16 hours per week, which is a lot of work in addition to a master program. But so you could look for a part-time job if you chose to do that. There are some scholarships coming into the country. One of them is the Leiden Excellence Scholarship, which is our flagship scholarship. If you tend to be in the top 10% of your class, and are highly motivated and are, academically excellent, I would recommend that you could apply for this particular scholarship. It's highly competitive. About 1% of the applicants receive this particular scholarship each year, and it's partial to full tuition fees only. So it's not full scholarship, but it's about your tuition fees. And the Scholarship Commission makes those determinations overall, but I highly recommend taking a look at the Leiden Excellence Scholarship. You can check our other scholarships page to see if there's anything that's relevant for your particular situation as well. But the Leiden Excellence Scholarship is the main one that I would point you towards. And keeping in mind that while you can work part-time, of course, in the Netherlands, when you finish your program, we have what's called the orientation year for non-EU citizens, which allows you to stay and look for a job. Or an internship or something of the sort, because the Dutch government does want students who have come to the Netherlands to study to stay and lend their talents to the country. So we have the orientation year for you to be able to help you on your continued academic or professional career. And that's across the country. So that's something that you'd find for all Dutch institutions. I did want to mention housing a little bit more here as well, because there's characteristics of the Dutch accommodation landscape that are different than other countries. And that is that housing is not owned or managed by the universities themselves. It's not allowed in this country. And that dorms and meal plans aren't typical, but you may find lots of different facilities where it's only international students. So it might be a big apartment building with lots of international students in it. It may look like a dorm and feel like a dorm, but you'll still have to cook and clean for yourself. Like I mentioned, student accommodation is in short supply, so you do have to apply early. You do have to be planning ahead when you're looking at the Netherlands as a destination. And the cost will depend really on the city and facility, like I said earlier. Students could pay as little as 300 euros for a room. That would be, I think, rare at this point. But, you could be upwards of 1,000, 1,200 euros a month if you wanted your own individual apartment or studio apartment, depending on exactly your requirements. So something to look at when you're planning financially is to determine what kind of housing facility you might be looking at, and that it is your responsibility to find housing. I mean, Tanner, I see you nodding there. I'm not sure, what has been your experience in the housing area when living in the Netherlands, because you've lived in a couple of cities.
Yeah, because of that, actually, I didn't have a particular experience regarding finding a housing before, like, my studies, because I already moved to The Hague before I got accepted to this program. But like, what I can recommend and underline is, like you mentioned, that you should be very proactive, and there are several channels that you can look for housing in the Netherlands, like from Facebook channels to specific websites. And for instance, in our master's program, we had one person that is assigned for this job, and like she was taking care of like everybody in that regard, and she was posting like housing options and asking like if we found a house or something like that. So you can also benefit from those kind of support that you might receive. But yeah, the overall key is here is that you should be very proactive and be ahead of the game, and do not leave housing to the last minute, because then you might find yourself in a problematic situation. Not that it won't be solved, but you might be a bit disadvantaged.
Yeah, it's a stressful experience to show up in the Netherlands without housing already arranged, so we do not recommend that. Now, I'm hoping that as you've gone through this presentation, you're wondering if Leiden University is a good fit for you, and I hope this kind of helped. But I do want to also address here just quickly the application process as well, because when you're applying to Leiden University, there's a 100 euro application fee, but that can cover up to applying to 3 different specializations within the university. Each program will have a generally fairly detailed listing of what the admissions requirements are. So some of you are asking about GPA requirements and so forth, and this is very program specific. So some may just say you need to be an academically excellent student with a bachelor degree from a recognized institution. Others may have a specific kind of grade requirement or certain course requirements that they'll list on the program page. But on the admissions and application section of every program, you will find the admissions requirements. So it's important for you to read through that and then compare that to your academic background. You will then have to make an educated guess if you think there's a close enough match, and apply, because then the admissions office will do the initial processing of your application, and the program will make the final decision if you'll receive a spot in the program. So there's no way to determine ahead of applying whether you'll for sure be admitted, but you should be able to make a pretty good guess if you're a good candidate based on the admissions requirements that are listed per program. Now, in many cases, you'll only be allowed to apply for one specialization within a program, but you can also double check that when you're applying because you might be interested in more than one, but be aware that you may need to choose just one. That is possible. And the process can take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks generally after you send in an application form for it to be making a decision. However, it can take much longer depending on the time of year that you apply. So the earlier you apply, often, that process goes somewhat quickly. But if you're applying to deadlines, it could take much longer than that 6-week time frame. So please be aware of that as well when you're planning ahead. And there was one question about the English language proficiency, and you are currently allowed to apply without having met the English proficiency requirements. So if you haven't written your test yet, for example, you can apply ahead of that and then provide your IELTS or TOEFL scores later. That may change in the coming years, so it's always best to double check. And it's always best to apply with as full of an application portfolio as possible, because then, of course, decisions are made much faster. So try to have all of those requirements met and your tests written prior to applying if you can. Now, again, I hope that you think that Leiden University is a good fit for you. I wanted to let you know that we also help you with your decision-making toolkit, meaning after today, you can, of course, email us at study@leidenuniv.nl in my office. We're happy to help. You can check out our social media and our blogs and vlogs that are there for giving you a bit of a glimpse into the look and feel of Leiden University. We have virtual tours and online events happening all the time. The study advisors and coordinators of your programs can answer some questions about the content of your program, but everything else can come to me at StudyLine. And of course, you can chat with a student regularly on our website as well. It's quite easy to do so. So we give you all these different facilities and opportunities to be able to connect with the university and find out what you need to know. Like I said, we do have our master online open days next Thursday and Friday, the 10th and 11th. You can still register online for those, and everything is online. All the different sessions will be online, the live Q&As, the information market where everyone from the university will be available to chat with you. So I highly recommend registering for that. So you can take part in that particular event. It's great timing for this presentation today. So with that, I do want to open to some questions that maybe we have not answered just yet. So I also call upon our moderator here to jump in if necessary. I'm just going to quickly go through them here a little bit as well. Bezanur is asking, are we too late for the 2022-2023 master's application? The answer generally is no. Most applications, the deadlines will start April 1st for our September intake, but we also have a February intake of most programs. So there's quite a lot of opportunities still for the 2022-2023 academic year. So that's good news. So please check that out so that you have some time to pull together your application. We have a question about academic summer programs for high school students. We don't actually have academic summer programs for high school students, unfortunately. The summer programs that we have on offer are generally for bachelor and master students already. There's very few opportunities in the Netherlands for high school students in the summertime at the universities, unfortunately. Karen was asking, do you offer online programs? And I would say in general, we do not. We have been online because of the pandemic, but the priority is in-person education at Leiden University. Now, that may change in the future, but currently this is the case in general for all of our programs. I think we've discussed sort of career opportunities for international students quite a bit in the program, in the program that we've talked about today. I don't know, Tanner, maybe you want to add some more to, because you of course had lots of colleagues and you currently are working academically on your PhD. What would what's your opinion on the career opportunities for international students after graduation?
Yeah, I think apart from everything that we have covered, I can maybe underline Zukiar, the search year afterwards, because I also benefited from that. And like, for instance, I was still doing my internship and I wanted to continue with that until the end of that program at the United Nations, because I thought that was a very good position for me and a good experience. But I could, like, legally, I wasn't able to continue that work because I wouldn't be able to match the wage requirements, etc., because it was an unpaid internship. So I used that opportunity to start my search year and then stay in the country as legally and start work alongside that during that term. And after I completed my internship, it was very easy for me to also be in the Netherlands and continue applying for the PhD positions that are already here, while also being able to go to conferences organized by those universities or the professors, so to interact with them and have a chance to chat with them. So apart from everything that we have covered, maybe I can also give this insight about the search years. Like if you'll be able to come to Leiden University and study in the Netherlands, definitely make advantage of that.
Great. Yeah. I mean, I think that, of course, the whole concept of coming to study in the Netherlands and then the push that we have and the highly international programs we have is really that we do want you to stay and work in the Netherlands after you finish your studies. So that is the driving force behind it. So hopefully you'll find lots of opportunities should you come to study at Leiden University.
Maybe I can add one more thing. Now I realize that when you were mentioning, I am actually thinking all those things that I did in Leiden University that I didn't remember while you were mentioning that in the first place. So I remember that both Leiden University itself and the law faculty was providing a lot of career services and tutorials, especially the university one. I think attended all the tutorials or the lectures that they provided, from how to build your LinkedIn profile to how to make how to do good in the job interviews and stuff. So I was going there and sometimes one-on-one sessions, we were actually in a real job interview meeting, and they were giving me feedback and asking questions, and or we were in a small group and we were I think going there with our CVs and providing feedback to each other and then receive feedback from the tutor. So it was really, really, really helpful for me to get acquainted with the job market here in the Netherlands before I graduated.
Excellent. So, I mean, I think students can get a sense of that kind of support and academic or career focus that we certainly have from all the experiences that you may have had, certainly overall. Now, I see another question has popped up, and it's from Pinar, and it's actually a bachelor level question, which I will ask, or I can answer here as well today, even though we've been focusing on master programs. She's asking about applications with the IB, and in general, for most of our programs, Pinar, the full IB with a passing grade is sufficient for most programs. We have 3 further selected programs: psychology, international relations organizations, and the liberal arts and sciences program at Leiden University College. And they will be looking for much higher grades than a passing grade. They are selective. So depending on the bachelor program you're looking at, you can double check that. But for the other 13 programs, the passing grade in the IB is sufficient for application. So thank you for your bachelor question. I think we're coming down to the sort of end of our time shortly, but we still have time for more questions. I think I've answered most of the questions in our chat here in the question section. So please also feel welcome to add any last minute questions that you might have here, things that you wanted to know that we haven't covered in the presentation today. Questions for Tanner about being a student or being an alum of Leiden University. We are happy to try to answer those before the end of our session today. Just doing a scroll through here. And maybe, Tanner, I'm not sure, is there anything that you think that we've missed, or anything that you wanted to share that you didn't have the opportunity to so far?
No, I don't think so. I think we covered more or less everything. And yeah, I'm happy to hear if there's anything missed from the participants today, to hear from them. What are they curious about?
Yeah, I think we're not seeing any new questions come in. So Zeynep, I think that's maybe your cue to help wrap up.
Yes, thank you very much for the great presentation, Carolyn and Taner. It was really informative for the attendees, and you covered all of the questions. Thank you for your answers too. Just could you please put an email address on the chat box so that the participants can directly contact if they have any other further questions?
Absolutely. Here I go. If you have questions or need assistance, or want to know how to register for the online open day for the masters next week. Also, the bachelor open day is on Saturday, the 12th, also online. So if you're in the audience and you're looking at bachelors, there's opportunities next week as well. So please be in touch with us. We're happy to help.
Thank you. Also, I would like to thank the participants in Turkish as well. Katıldığınız için teşekkür ederiz arkadaşlar. Umarım sizin için de faydalı bir webinar olmuştur. Leiden Üniversitesi ile ilgili diğer sorularınız için chat kısmında paylaşılan mail adresinden Carolyn'e ulaşabilirsiniz. Herkese iyi akşamlar dileriz. Bir sonraki webinarlarımızda görüşmek üzere. Thank you very much again, you guys. It was a pleasure to have you in IEFT Talks.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.